stuff in the background here, so I need to just transfer host real quickly. Okay, Dan, did that work?
It's starting up for the recording now. It looks like it should be ready in a second.
Oh,
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, and then, so before you go, then you have to transfer host back to me.
You know, I'll hold on for now. You have co-hosts, so you can share your screen at the moment.
Say that again?
You should be able to pull up your screen sharing now.
Okay. So, so I can do screen sharing in co-host mode, is that what you said? Okay.
Yep.
Okay, sorry. We couldn't get the recording started, so I think we're good now. Okay.
oh, good.
So, any questions on the director's report? I just, we had a last minute change after giving you this very lovely explanation about how we've rolled back to phase 2.1. You see at the end, just before I pressed send on this, we actually closed the library. So, so just a little update there. I think I said a little bit in my email to you that we have got, at the moment, we're down 5 staff members and 4 of which are full-time. So that's 4 out of our 7 full-timers. And so we're continuing curbside, which has been extremely busy. There were some frustrations on Monday where people were showing up and, trying to get in the doors, and a little frustrated that we closed with, not much notice. Did get one angry email today, but
Angry that we were closed?
yeah, people are frustrated because they are. And the good thing is they're frustrated that we're closed because they want us to be open. So that's the good thing. And so overall, the situation is going to be, I'm monitoring it, basically minute by minute, hour by hour. And the next point of reevaluation will be tomorrow. And that's based on the number of days for each person when they became exposed and all that kind of stuff. So I've got a spreadsheet going for that. And I'm in touch with the health department constantly on that. We discuss every single case and they assign a sort of priority to, how careful we need to be depending on how far out their exposure was. So, so we've got all that sorted out, and you all probably also know that town hall will be going to back to appointment only, and I think 50% staff, and that will be on the 30th. So it is unlikely that we will open back up until the 30th. It may be, who knows? We're looking at it every day. Just basically doing the best we can there. Any questions on that?
No, okay. All right, anything else on the director's report that you have? No? Okay, old business. You will notice a difference in the way this is presented. I kept looking at it and I thought, this gets to the point where I can't figure out what's going on and why we have things in different orders. So this is sort of an experimental way to look at the agenda. Not everything in old business will we talk about. And some things disappeared. I finally decided that if and when the town decides to issue some kind of proclamation about access to the Zoom meetings, they'll let us know and we'll deal with it then. I don't have to remember it. I'm sure they'll let us know. So, so we'll start with committees, the new library.
There really isn't any update from the new library committee because their next meeting is tomorrow. So we haven't met since the last board meeting.
Okay.
So next month.
Next month, we'll expect voluminous.
Amazing stuff. Amazing
stuff. Yes. Okay. The strategic plan, we have been, we need to redo it, and I guess among other things, it gets a new name. But I would like to formally appoint a small committee of Mary Capiello and Christina. And as always, and with Yvonne, but if Mary and Christina want to dragoon others on the board into this committee, I'm fine with that. Also, just because we have a committee, like with the new library committee, it is the responsibility of the whole board in the end to approve the plan, and possibly if we do things like interviews and talking to people, to participate in some way when that committee needs help. So this will be a formal subcommittee of the board, which means that for meetings, you will need to file agendas and minutes with the town clerk. Okay, so we haven't done much. Yvonne's been doing some searching and talking to the state library, who is in charge of these things. It's part of something we should do, and we haven't done. Update the strategic plan. It also has to be part of a grant submission to the state library for construction of a new library. Okay. So we'll find out their new name and everything else next month. The Center School Use Ad Hoc Committee presented its report. I've heard nothing beyond what was at the selectmen's meeting. I don't know, let's see, whether the board, as far as I know, there would be no reason to send it to the Board of Finance. Doesn't mean they won't hear about it at their regular meeting. But the committee is still, I guess, active until I think February, maybe later. And we were reappointed just in case they wanted to say something to us. Okay, policies, the budget line transfers we're not going to deal with. I know in the director's report, it said the controller is still pushing to tell us how to run our fund. So Kathy, can I ask you just to be in contact with them and say, until we have our annual sit down with Wells Fargo, then we will deal with the issue of what we are investing in and whether or not the board thinks that's the right thing.
Right. I'll just say that, we've been doing it. We have a review. I'll send it. So I'll send it to John, because he started this, I think.
John and Marcia.
And Steve is also on that chain.
Yep. All right.
Because
But I'll say it'll probably be toward the beginning of next year versus before the end of the year.
Yeah, okay. All right. The exhibits policy probably needs to be redone. I think, Yvonne, you were working on that. But
yeah, I think we sort of tabled it because there's no exhibits going on right now. So not a lot of urgency there, but a good idea to take a look at it.
Yes, you're right. It isn't, and it's not meant to put any kind of deadline on it at the moment. Okay, so in finances, we have two areas: the capital budgets for the current year, which has never been approved, and so is very likely either going to be subsumed into next year, or it may be the capital budget for next year. So we have on that replacing the windows and doors, doing the security system, which actually may get done this year. the ADA compliant bathroom by the community room, which winds up being a much bigger project than simply the bathroom. It means replacing the ramp and at least one door to the community room from the outside to make it handicapped accessible. This year, we talked and proposed several things. So you got 4 items. The priorities are a little odd, I have to say.
Yeah, actually, it didn't really translate. And I asked Marcia for updated forms, and she said she basically hadn't gotten to that yet. So she said to go ahead and use last year's forms, but there are things that I couldn't change in on the file because they're locked. So I sort of did the best I could with it. But yeah, the priorities in real life are to have the elevator as the number 1 priority, the generator as the number 2 priority, and get the rest here.
Architect and phone.
Architect and phone, but both the last 2 items, I mean, none of these will likely make it through on the first pass, well, or second pass, or 4th or 5th, but the phone is, I put a placeholder number in at 20,000. The estimate was supposed to come in today and they pushed it off to tomorrow. So I still don't have it, but Steve will very likely look at that holistically. And when the new school gets built, we'll very likely take that opportunity to look at all of the town hall or all of the town department phone systems and perhaps get all of them upgraded at the same time. So, so that's in there, but it's in there to sort of, you know, make a claim that we need it so that when it comes time to for the town to reevaluate all the phone systems, we will be included in that.
Yes, when they ask, have you asked for this before? We can say yes.
Yes, that's pretty much how it works. Yeah.
Yes, you have to have them in. So I think combination of 2 years worth of capital budgets is enormous, not probably acceptable to the town, particularly since we're starting the revaluation process, much to the dismay of people who who worry about those things. So I don't know anything concrete. I guess we're in good shape if these capital requests are due in November and we don't quite yet have the proper forms.
So that's the other thing. When I spoke to Marcia, because I was trying to, ask for the updated forms, one of the problems we have at the library that other town departments don't have is we do not have access to their, and Dan, I don't know if you can hear, but I'm not sure I'm using the right terminology. We don't have access to their shared drive or whatever server it is they use for all of their forms that they have access to because we're off-site. So,
yeah, since you're a separate site, we have our network, we have our shared drive, but it's only available from inside of the town hall's network building.
And that is where all of the finance forms live. So that's why it's always really problematic for our budget forms because Marcia sends them to me. A lot of them don't translate well for a number of technical reasons. And then we fill them out and then save them and send them back to her. And so when they make updates on their end, we don't normally get them. So, so in any case, Marcia during this conversation said, I said, well, it's November, they're going to be due soon. So when are we going to get it? And they are so backed up with everything that's going on with COVID. and all of the demands that that's making on, budgets and finances, that I don't think they will actually get to these budgets now until January. So, I got that word yesterday, I think. So we basically have some wiggle room. I told her we had 2 meetings scheduled in January, because that's how it used to be when we used to approve the budget in January before it got moved earlier. So she said it will very likely be okay to do it by then.
Yeah, because I mean, for the past 2 years, we've done our meeting early in January to approve the budget. I think both those times it's been like a day late for the budget. But both times I also sent her an email and said, we have this meeting scheduled. We will approve the budget that night and send it to you the next morning. And that's always been fine. I think that just being able to say, yes, we know when we're going to do this, and it pretty much matches what you want. So we'll see. Well, it's tough. It's always tough to budget this early. At any rate, I mean, we have enough trouble trying to figure out what we're doing this year, let alone what we're going to be doing in July of next year. It's a long way out, and changes happen. Okay, so so the capital budget is one thing, and it's easy and discrete, and the operating budget is different. So I assume this year we're doing fairly well on the operating budget, mostly because I look at what gets reported to the Board of Selectmen, and we're not on the list of anything whose budgets are out of sync.
I do projections every couple of weeks, and I really have to look at all the individual line items pretty much daily, because anytime with the new systems that are in place with purchase orders and all of that, every time we need something, it has to have a purchase order now. So you can't open a purchase order unless you have the money available in your budget. So I'm constantly checking every line of the budget every day, but I did do projections yesterday just so that I could have some really updated information. And we are in good shape. It's going to be tight, but we're not going to be over. The main change we have is that when the 2 part-time custodian positions were approved, they were originally in a different line item. They were in facilities maintenance, and they are going to be moved over into part-time salaries. So at this moment, because that transfer hasn't been made yet, the part-time salaries look like they're over, but we're under overall. So we're waiting to get an exact amount on the transfer. It'll be somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000. And the reason we're waiting on that is because we have some savings, I hope, from not replacing the rest of George's hours immediately by holding off a little bit. And I'm hoping to get an accurate number by, I would say, the end of January. We'll have had enough payroll cycles so that I'll see what I can use as a projection. And at that point in January, I'll come to the board and say, because we, typically can move money between lines, but I usually, let you guys know if we need to do that to any great degree. So probably in January, I'll have a request for the exact amount to be moved from one line item to another.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good.
So that's on the 21-22 budget, or the 2021 budget, and
Right.
the 21-22 budget that I sent along to you. The 2 main things are just, we're asking for them to restore the COVID reductions, and an across the board 2.5% increase.
Where did the 2.5% increase come from?
That is just based on, I know that is the figure that has been used in the past couple of years for salaries. It's really a starting point for discussion. So based on a number of things, the 3 positions that we were given over the past 3 years, the increase to the cleaning amount, and knowing how tight things are with the COVID reductions that we've had to take out of our current budget, I thought it was probably a good idea not to really have any big ask this year, to just try and have a 2.5% ask to return the 13.5 that they took out of this year, and then just an across the board 2.5%. Any thoughts on that?
Wasn't it 2.5 for salaries and less than that for all the other accounts?
Last year it ended up to be, I think
1.6, something
about,
like
I was
that?
gonna say just under 2%, yeah. So, they may say, no, you can't have 2.5% in your non-salary items. I mean, the truth is we needed more money in our budget and our programming budget, for the last couple of years, and we haven't gotten it. And so if we have 2.5% overall, it starts to move us in the right direction.
Okay.
We hope, yeah. Although I hate to see 2.5% for salaries. I mean, I know the past few years we've started off at 3%, just because the likelihood of it being cut.
Last year, we went in at 2.5% because it was very clear that that's what was.
No, the original proposal was 3%, and they just come back and say, but somewhere along the line, it's very frustrating. It's frustrating that you can look at everything that we do and justify every expense, and then they tell you, well, it doesn't matter. This is what you're going to get. So I think that we might want to look at just raising the salary line. I'm also having a little problem with the other expenses, material, because it doesn't look like we have a line item anymore. We used to have a small line item for equipment, didn't we? That now all we have is equipment maintenance. I know we're not talking about large scale capital equipment, which luckily we haven't needed for a while, and which goes into the capital budget. But are we down? Is there some place, if you had to buy small pieces of equipment, that what line item would we use?
Then that would be 54915, which is equipment maintenance and repair, that line. And that one is, that's the 9100. So that is the line that used to be, we used to have about 3,500 in that line. And then we had the 10,000 in capital for technology. So they cut the 10,000 to 8,500, and then they put it in that line, and then they cut it some more. So we're down to 9,100, which pretty much cuts our 10,000 capital in half, and puts it in that line. That I agree, we need more in the technology area. But those were the cuts that were made over the past 2 years. That's what it's gotten down to.
I want to raise another issue. When you have a flat 2.5% in all the line items, it really means you're not serious about all the line items. You're just kind of picking a number and, doing it across the board. And so just for, even though you're not going to get any of it, I just would recommend having some of them show an effort that we really want more money in some of the accounts, like programs and books and material in the library. So just sort of, because in schools, we've done that for so many years. If you do a flat across the board, nope, you just get cut. So
That's
I would
a good point.
just look at a couple of line items and make them more than that. No, seriously,
Definitely easy enough to do
I'm
because
serious.
bare bones here.
Yeah.
So it is definitely easy enough to do. So if we do that, my suggestion would be in the equipment line, which was reduced, and also in the book line. But the technology related software line, which in the past has been sort of more than enough, and we've been able to have some savings there. That now is mostly eaten up because we've had to add so many electronic databases and other resources. So I would opt for adding a little bit more there.
The other thing, Yvonne, is what we had with the equipment anyway is a 3-year life cycle. Because when I first joined the board, and Betsy, you'll remember this, it was like every 3 years we'd have to go for $40,000 to replace all the equipment. So instead of doing that, we did 10,000 every year. And I know they've changed that, but have we looked at, are we replacing our equipment in the appropriate time frame? And if we are, great. But if we're not, we should probably revisit that, because you don't want to have a time where all the equipment goes and you haven't replaced it, because we really wanted to do a third over 3 years. And just keep that as a rolling upgrade, because that's typical for technology.
Yeah, what we can do is we've recently put together an inventory of our technology, and we can just take a look at the ages on that and make sure that we're creating a schedule to attach to the requests that we have here.
Okay.
And if memory serves, you've lent out some Chromebooks, have you? To school, to
Not
some of the
Chromebooks. We've lent out hotspots.
Okay, so I don't know if that's going to age them quicker with higher use. I don't
The
know.
school,
but-
well, it's a good point. The school is actually going to replace the ones that we used, because they're either allowing their students to keep them or they have been destroyed. So
Either way, they're being replaced. So that's
they're being
good.
replaced.
That's really good. But are there other ways that we can support the kids who, is there anything that we might want to add to our budget to support the kids in this new learning age?
Oh, good.
In terms
I
of
don't know the
technology,
answer to that. I'm just, throwing it out there. I mean, that's probably a good question for someone from the school board or the superintendent, but
well,
or
also,
Debbie would actually know.
I've
right?
actually been in touch with Eric Conklin, who is the head of IT for the Board of Ed. And we talk fairly regularly. Whenever they need anything, they've been reaching out to us and vice versa. So at the moment, they haven't, there aren't any requests out there to us that we haven't been able to take care of with what we have. Where we're really providing support to the schools right now is through our both our children's and teen librarians, through doing outreach to create technology resources that they can access that are things like video lessons and things like that that we're putting together and then providing to the teachers. So we are helping them in that way.
That's great.
So take another stab at this by including the replacement schedule for equipment and a technology inventory. I would add increase a little more in books, which we've done in years past, and equipment maintenance. And then that might make it look like it's not an across the board.
Yay.
Okay.
Good move. Okay, we'll look at it again. As we don't need to do either one of, well, the capital budgets look good as long as we can get them in the proper form and if they ask, but the operating budget, then we'll worry about. We'll look at again in December and see where we are and see where the town is. Okay.
That sounds
All right.
good.
So we'll move on to new business, the Connecticut State Annual Report.
I
Which is
put a summary together of just a couple of items, and I'll share my screen and show you these items. Figure out where they went on my screen share. Hang on, let's try this. Annual report, there we go. Now let's see if I can do screen share. There it is. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay, so this is just a couple of the stats from the annual report, and the ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones to point out. So this was a very odd year to be doing statistics, to say the least. In total, we were closed for 3.5 months of the reporting year. We closed in the middle of March and the reporting year goes through the end of June. So what I did here was take the 2019 numbers against the 2020 numbers just for a little bit of comparison. But as you know, it's going to be difficult to do that. So I did do some projections. And what I did was take the 2019 number and divide it by 12 months, and then multiplied it by 8.5 months, which is how many months we were actually open, and then looked at that number against the actual for 2020 to see if we would have been higher or lower. And how it turns out is our cardholder number ended up lower. We would have probably been a little bit higher than our previous year if we were open. We did still issue cards. While we were closed, we implemented an online card issuing system, but we just didn't have the foot traffic that we normally have. So this number is down, the lowest it's been in years. We're hoping that that sort of rights itself once the world goes back to normal.
Yvonne, what does that number mean?
It means, sorry, how many cardholders? So for the 2020 year, 8,202 cardholders right now. That is the number of cardholders in Brookfield. So that's how many people have a library card in the town of Brookfield.
So you lost 300 people? Did they move or something, or?
No, the cards automatically expire every 3 years so that we're not having old, outdated cards in there.
Oh.
So the cards automatically expire and we reissue cards every day. And
okay.
so the numbers usually, we try and sort of creep up higher and higher. Our goal is to obviously have as many people in town as possible that hold a library card. There's 17,100 approximately population of Brookfield. So about half of the town of Brookfield has a library card. And that number has dropped a little bit because of being closed. So we're hoping to bring that number up. We do campaigns all the time for people to come in and get library cards, and And so, that's a pretty cool number. Annual visits means how many people walk in and out of the library every year. And that's one of our most important numbers. And we've been hovering at about between 98 and a little over 100,000 visits per year. And I was actually surprised that we were at 76,000 only 8.5 months into the year. So we would have been either at or above our last year's total of annual visits to the library. You could see how many weeks we were open to the public, which is far fewer than in the previous year. The other number that I think is extraordinary is we actually exceeded the number of programs overall that we did this year over last year. And that is strictly because our staff just adapted on the fly and reinvented themselves and have done an extraordinary job. So 709 total programs in a year where we were closed for 3.5 months. So that's pretty extraordinary. We had 12,000 people attending programs, and the state report was very tricky this year of how to report virtual programs. So they only permitted in this number is only includes only actual attendees during the program. If we had additional attendees, let's say it's a virtual program and the recording stays on YouTube or on Facebook for some time after, those views did not get reported in this number. So this is actual program attendance, which is very exciting because in a really robust year, last year and the year before, we had about 14,000. We had 12,000 attendees and we were closed for 3.5 months. That's just extraordinary. So again, a testament to a fabulous staff that goes above and beyond. You can see that our databases increased from 43 to 49. It doesn't seem like a lot, but each one of those databases costs money. So when we're adding 6 databases, that's a big hit to our book budget. Under circulation, there's one other number and it's just labeled E, but that is just to illustrate that our electronic circulation was about 26% higher at almost 23,000 than our previous year, obviously due to everything going virtual this year. So, but the thing is, people are using the services. So, so when we buy these databases and we have streaming services and we provide ebooks, those things are getting used. People are converting to using that since they, oftentimes can't get into the library. So those are pretty interesting numbers. And those were the basic highlights from the annual report.
Good. So when the annual report gets compiled by the state library, we'll let you know. It's a tough slog to get through, to be able to look at, but it really does have a wealth of information, and we're gonna in some ways look like things went down, but so is every library in the state. I mean, this is not this past year, and the future, the next year is going to look a little odd too, because of, but it's happening to everybody. If it were just us that went down in any of these statistics, it would be a concern. The fact that every library in the state is having the same problems is something, and this takes an enormous amount of time to be done, keep track of all these statistics, and keep track, because we keep track by calendar year, they keep track by fiscal year, which means you're yes, I know. Alice, you must have been through this stuff, but it is a very useful report. So we'll let you know when it's available on the state library's website. All right, so we'll move on. Mary Capiello.
Okay, so we all got to meet Casey Sarmier at our last meeting. I think she's still with us today. We didn't scare her away, so that's good. So, you know, I don't know how much you want me to go back over things, but she had met with Christina and I about a month ago, actually. And then she came to our meeting. Then I think she got to meet Betsy and Alice a little bit. I don't know if it was virtually or, I mean, isn't everything these days?
No, this was in person.
Wow, exciting.
And cold.
Oh, it's good for you, right? Keeps you awake. But yeah, so, you know, just going back over everything, she's been at Brookfield about 10 years, has children in the school. She's been a physical therapist, I guess, her whole adult life. She has done volunteer work in the schools and at her job through the years, but it's never served on a board or commission. But that's like all of us. You don't serve on a board or commission until one day you do. And then, you know, you try to keep it to just 1 or 2 boards if you can. It's, you know, it becomes a habit. Well, just warning you a little bit.
Jeez.
But most importantly, Casey sees the library as really the cornerstone of the community and wants to see ours thrive and grow. So we do have an opening to fill since John Pitt left us. So I think Casey would be a pretty great fit, and just didn't know if people had questions, comments.
I think she's going to be excellent. I thought she was delightful and bring a fresh perspective. So
Thanks.
I'm really happy about meeting her.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I think Casey would be great too.
thank you. I do too. I appreciated meeting her, sitting out in the cold on the Cumberton's deck. We did have very good chocolate mousse, though.
It was good. The
Yes.
chocolate pudding.
Made the
One of the-
day.
One of the kids made it.
Yeah, Charlotte.
Great.
So Casey said that day that she had not ever been on a board, and when you come to one of these kinds of meetings the first time, it can be a little overwhelming. The fact that she's come back is a good sign. That it can't be that overwhelming. You can learn almost everything. So, do we have a motion to let me write to the Board of Selectmen recommending Casey for taking over John Pitt's position?
Yeah, I move that we have Chairperson Betsy McIlvaine send a letter to the Board of Selectmen recommending that Casey Sarmier fill the vacancy on the library board left by John Pitt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Christina, okay. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay. Casey, I will,
Yay.
hey, thank you for agreeing to join us.
Sure.
Doesn't the new person have to make cookies for us?
Virtual cookies.
And deliver them.
So,
That's what I heard.
virtual
And
cookies.
deliver them.
Yes.
I thought you were going to say have to make a speech.
I know.
I
was
thought
like,
the
wait,
same thing.
And I want cookies.
cookies I can do.
All right, so I will, I asked John if he would send me his letter of resignation. And so hopefully I will be able to get that and get organized through the town clerk and on to the next Board of Selectmen's meeting, because that's where the appointment has to be done. So we'll see how we do. So thank you very much. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Let's see, are there any other points of business? We
Uh,
can do now,
once-
we have
Once
announcements.
once Casey's appointment goes through, somebody please make sure to send me all her contact information. Give her my address so she can send it to me or something, and then we'll get in touch, and we'll have to do some onboarding.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So for announcements, a reminder that the meeting in December will be on the 16th of December. It's a week early because of Christmas, so the 16th, 7:30 by Zoom. Will be the biggest Christmas present if we can get to meetings with people. The other thing that Yvonne reminded me, I saw this, the ACLB, the Association of Connecticut Library Boards, does a very good job and they've been having conferences that have been really impressive, do some very good education of board members. Casey just missed the on being a board member. It was last night, sorry.
Oh, it's all right.
I am hoping that ACLB will put these presentations on their website and we'll let you know when the rest of them are. The one that is actually tomorrow night, done by Livy Post, who was a consultant here for us, is advocacy and budgets in the time of COVID-19. If any of you are interested, we can try and sign up. I'm hoping that either they will say, yes, you can still sign up. I'm never sure why people limit the number of people who can sign up, but at any rate, Libby did some very good work with us the last time we looked for a new library. So I will see if we can get signed up for that. Mary, you may be interested, actually on the 19th, 1 to 2 p.m. is ACLB's library board self-assessment tool. So that, I think, let's see, registration will open next week. Hopefully, if you look on the aclb.org website, it will tell you how or if we can register for these. And Casey, if we can find that the one on the board basics is will be available, we'll let you know. Either that or I'll trot out my version of it.
I was just gonna say, Betsy has a version of this. I remember it. It's
good. See, you're supposed to, and you remember what it said.
Yeah, every word.
Yes, so hopefully by next year, ACLB will be back doing their one-day conferences have proven to really provide some good information. So, oh, yes, there is also one on the 20th, which could be interesting. The State Library Advisory Council for Planning and Development. The title is "The Future is Shared, Library Sharing Resources, 3 Possible Scenarios for 2030. I think this is thinking ahead.
I've actually seen both of those presentations. I've seen the one we just talked about, the 2030, and the I actually just met with Libby Post today. I didn't meet with her. She presented in our meeting today, and it's the same presentation that she's going to do tomorrow. Both of those are definitely worth sitting through if you have the time.
Yeah.
Both and that future presentation, definitely worth sitting through.
Okay, so that I think was the announcements that I had.
I have one other announcement. Some of you may have seen the email that went out for Sharon Sante's retirement. So it was supposed to be an open house tomorrow, but of course now we're closed. So we, like everyone else, pivot and adapt on the fly, and we would like to have a drive-by parade for her on her last day, which is on the 24th at 12 noon. And that way, even staff that's on quarantine can still participate because they can drive by in their car. So if anyone would like to say a farewell to Sharon, who has been with us for 25 years, I think. And prior to that, a very long career as the library media specialist over at Center School. And her students from Center School, who now have children of their own, come into the library to see her. So she is very, very much loved and will be missed. And her last day is the 24th. So if anyone's available, drive your car over to the Brookfield Theater and line up and beep and wave or hang out a sign and wish her well.
Okay, thank you. Boy, it's 2 long-term employees leaving this year.
Yeah, we've known that these retirements were coming, but I think COVID pushed a lot of people to doing it sooner than they normally would have.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, we've gotten some very good replacements though, on the other hand, so
Yes.
that's a good sign. So, anything else? No? Okay, I thank you all for being here this evening and have a good, safe, stay-at-home Thanksgiving. And we'll see you in December, if not before. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Thank you.